A silhouette appears through the dust clouds on the Central Asian steppe. The Mongol warriors squint against the sun, trying to make out the approaching rider. When the dust settles, they freeze. It's not another soldier. It's a woman. A princess. And she's about to challenge the greatest wrestlers in the Mongol Empire with her hand in marriage as the prize. What they don't know yet, she's already defeated hundreds of men. Each one paid her 10 horses for the privilege of losing. Her name was Khutulun, and by the time her story ends, she would command armies of 40,000 warriors, reshape the power structure of Asia, and become so legendary that 700 years later, her tale would inspire one of the world's most famous This is the story the history books tried to forget. The year is 1260. The Mongol Empire stretches from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe, the largest contiguous land empire in human history. Into this world of conquest and blood, a girl is born to Kaidu Khan, direct descendant of Genghis Khan himself. Her name, Khutulun. Bright Moon in Mongolian. She has 14 brothers, 14 princes who should inherit everything while she fades into the background, a political pawn, married off to seal an alliance. But Kaidu is not a typical father, and Khutulun is not a typical daughter. From the moment she can walk, she trains alongside her brothers. Not as a courtesy. As a warrior, Mongol children learn to ride before they can run. They shoot arrows from horseback at full gallop. They survive on dried meat and mare's milk for weeks. Weakness means death. Khutulun excels at all of it. By age 10, riding harder than boys twice her age. By 12, wrestling grown men to the ground. By 15, training with elite warriors and winning. Picture this. A training ground outside Kaidu's camp. Dozens of warriors practicing combat, and in the center, a teenage girl throwing seasoned soldiers into the dirt with techniques that leave them gasping. Her brothers watch with pride, and something else. Fear, because they're beginning to realize their sister might be the strongest warrior among them all. By adulthood, Khutulun's reputation spreads like wildfire. The princess who fights like a demon. The warrior who has never been defeated. Suitors, armies, princes, generals, wealthy merchants all seeking her hand. She refuses every single one. Her father presses her. You must marry. Your marriage could secure desperately needed alliances. Khutulun's response shocks the entire court. I will marry, but only to a man who can defeat me in wrestling. Every man who challenges me and loses must pay me 10 horses. Silence. Wrestling is sacred to the Mongols, a test of strength, skill, honor. Khutulun is proposing to stand as an equal to any man in the empire. After a long moment, Kaidu smiles. Very well. Let the challenges begin. The first challenger arrives within weeks. A confident prince. He brings 10 horses. The match lasts less than 2 minutes. Khutulun moves like lightning feint. Grab, twist. The prince hits the dirt, arm wrenched behind his back. The second challenger comes. Then a third. A 10th. A 100th. Skilled wrestlers, powerful men, clever fighters who study her style. None of it matters. She defeats them all. 10 horses becomes 100. 100 becomes 1,000. According to Marco Polo, she eventually accumulated over 10,000 horses. But these weren't just victories. They were declarations. Every time Khutulun stepped onto that wrestling ground, she announced to the Mongol world, I am not property. I am a warrior. One. Choose my own fate. Then he arrives, the champion of champions. He's never lost. 500 victories, trained in Mongolian, Persian, and Chinese techniques, massive shoulders like a bull, hands that could crush stone. He doesn't bring 10 horses, he brings 100. Even Kaidu shows concern. You don't have to accept this challenge. There's no shame in refusing. Khutulun's response: if I refuse now, everything I've built means nothing. Every victory becomes hollow. She pauses. I will fight him, and I will win. The day arrives. The entire camp watches. The champion enters first, performing the traditional eagle dance. Powerful, confident. He's done this hundreds of times before victory. Then Khutulun enters. Silence. Where his movements are aggressive, hers are fluid. Where his demonstrate power, hers show precision. The match begins. He lunges with terrifying speed. She slides aside. He adjusts, gets a grip, pulls with his superior weight. The crowd gasps. No one has ever pulled Khutulun off balance. But she doesn't resist. She uses it. As he pulls forward, she drops her weight. Rotates suddenly, his momentum works against him. He stumbles. That's all she needs. She hooks her leg behind his, grabs his vest, and pulls. The champion crashes to the ground like a felled tree. Dust explodes around them. For a moment, no one breathes. Then Khutulun stands, arms extended in victory. The camp erupts. She claims her 100 horses, then does something unexpected. Offers him a position in her father's army. Your strength would be valuable in battle. He accepts. By converting defeated opponents into allies, Khutulun isn't just building a legend, she's building a power base. Take a moment to like this video and subscribe. We're uncovering forgotten heroes like this. Every weak warriors, rulers, rebels, whose stories deserve remembering. Hit that notification bell and drop a comment. Who's your favorite forgotten hero from history? Now, back to Khutulun, because it's about to get even more intense. Wrestling made Khutulun famous. What she did on the battlefield made her immortal. By 1275, Central Asia reaches a breaking point. Kublai Khan, ruling from China, claims authority over all Mongol territories. Kaidu refuses, seeing Kublai as corrupted by Chinese culture, abandoning the true Mongol way. War is inevitable. When Kaidu assembles his army, he makes a shocking decision. He appoints Khutulun as a military commander. Not symbolic, real tactical authority over thousands of warriors. Older generals protest. She is a woman. The men will not follow. Kaidu's response is simple. Watch them. Her first test comes at the Tullis River. Kaidu's forces engage a detachment of Kublai's army. Chaos, cavalry charges, arrow volleys, hand-to-hand combat in dust and blood. Khutulun rides with 300 horsemen. Mission: flank the enemy and create chaos in their rear. But as they circle around, they discover a problem. The enemy has positioned a reserve force exactly where she planned to attack. 3 times her numbers. Proceeding means slaughter. Retreating means failure. In that moment, Khutulun reveals her tactical genius. She splits her force. 200 riders continue the flanking maneuver loud, obvious, creating the illusion of a major attack. The enemy reserve moves to intercept. Khutulun, with her remaining 100 riders, circles even wider, moving fast, staying hidden behind ridgeline. By the time the enemy realizes what's happening, she's positioned directly behind their command post. She leads the charge herself, screaming a Mongol war cry that freezes blood. The attack is devastating. The command structure collapses. Then Khutulun does something that becomes her signature. She charges directly at an enemy general, surrounded by bodyguards. She cuts through them like paper. Then impassively she leans from her saddle, grabs the general by his armor, and literally pulls him off his horse. She holds him against her side like a sack of grain and rides out, carrying him as prisoner. Enemy forces see their general captured by a single warrior. Morale shatters. Battle becomes rout. When Khutulun throws the general at Kaidu's feet, The entire army witnesses it. From that moment, no one questions whether men will follow her. They will. Because she wins. This becomes her pattern. Over 15 years, dozens of battles, commands ranging from hundreds to tens of thousands. She studies enemies, adapts tactics, understands that Mongol warfare is about mobility, deception, psychological warfare. She captures enemy warriors on horseback multiple times. Enemy soldiers begin to fear the sight of a woman warrior charging toward them. But here's what makes her truly exceptional. She doesn't just fight, say, protects. In one recorded incident, Kaidu's army is ambushed during retreat. The rear guard is being slaughtered. The situation is desperate. Khutulun doesn't wait for orders. She assembles 2,000 riders and leads a countercharge directly into the pursuing force. The enemy expects desperation. They get a perfectly executed cavalry assault that hits like a hammer, wheels around attacks from the opposite direction. The pursuing army scatters. The rear guard is saved. Her troops call her the princess who fights like 10 men. Those who serve under her have a different name, the Shield of the People. By 1290, Khutulun has become the most powerful of Kaidu's children. Not by birth order, not behender, by merit to decades of unmatched military success. Kaidu is growing old. He must think about succession. By tradition, one of his 14 sons should inherit, but Kaidu begins considering something radical. What if Khutulun succeeded him instead? The reaction is explosive. Brothers outraged, advisors warning of fracture, allied khans questioning whether they'd honor agreements with a female ruler. Kaidu's conviction, Khutulun is worth any 10 of her brothers. She's proven her capability in every way that matters. Advisors push back. The Mongol Empire has never had a female khan. Your allies would desert. Your enemies would see weakness. It's a trap with no good solution. If Kaidu names Khutulun heir, civil war among his children, rebellion from vassals. If he doesn't, passing over the most qualified candidate for tradition alone. Khutulun watches her success poison her family. Brothers avoid her. Conversations stop when she enters. Resentment builds like a storm. One night, she approaches her father. You must choose one of my brothers as your heir. Kaidu, surprised, frustrated. None have your skills. None have earned what you've earned. That doesn't matter. If you name me heir, this family tears itself apart. When you die, there will be civil war. Everything we fought for collapses. So you would step aside, let lesser men take power to avoid conflict. Her response reveals everything. I would preserve what we've built. I would protect our people. If that means I cannot rule, then I cannot rule. But I can still serve. Stunning selflessness, choosing family unity over personal ambition, people over legend. But Kaidu isn't ready. I will think about this. Perhaps there is another way. Months pass. The question remains unresolved. Then Kaidu falls seriously ill. It's 1301. He's in his 70s, ancient by Mongol standards. As he lies dying, the succession crisis peaks. Messengers rush between camps. Brothers position supporters. The Khanate holds its breath. Khutulun gathers all 14 brothers. Our father is dying. We can fight each other, destroying everything he built, or we can unite and choose a leader who can hold this Khanate together. She pauses. I propose we support our brother, Oris. He's not the strongest warrior or greatest general, but he's wise, diplomatic, and fair. He can unite our family. I will serve as his military commander, ensuring our armies remain strong. Political masterstroke. By voluntarily stepping aside and proposing a compromise candidate, she diffuses the crisis before civil war. When Kaidu dies, Oris becomes Khutulun, as promised, becomes his primary military commander. She gives up the throne she could have claimed. In doing so, she saves her father's legacy and her family's power. After Kaido's death, renewed pressure: "You must marry. You have no heirs." The time for wrestling contests has passed. Khutulun is now in her 40s, 20 years of defying expectations. A fortune in horses, never married. Then she makes an unexpected decision. She chooses a husband, not a prince, not a champion, not a great warrior, a relatively ordinary soldier from her father's loyal forces. Someone she trusts, someone who will never try to control or diminish her. The court is scandalized, but this is vintage Khutulun decisions on her own terms. Always. The marriage is quiet. Notably, Khutulun doesn't give up her military command. She continues leading armies, riding into battle, being the warrior she's always been. Her husband becomes something unusual in Mongol society, a man defined by his wife's legend, and according to limited records, he seems perfectly content. But rumors begin circulating. Dark accusations. Some claim Khutulun poisoned her father to prevent him naming her brothers as heirs. Others suggest she killed several brothers in secret. Still others accuse her of witchcraft, claiming her unnatural strength must come from dark magic. None are ever proven. None are based on credible evidence, but they persist in chronicles written by those who can't accept that a woman could achieve what Khutulun achieved through skill alone. This is the double-edged sword of her legacy. She's so exceptional that people literally cannot believe she's real. They invent supernatural explanations, fabricat crimis, create narratives that make sense to their worldview, even when those narratives contradict all evidence. Khutulun ignores the rumors. She has more important work. Under Oris's rule, with Khutulun as military commander, the Khanate remains strong. She continues leading campaigns, winning battles, being the shield that protects her people. The historical record becomes unclear in her final years. Some sources suggest she died in battle, falling in combat like a true warrior. Others indicate natural causes, surrounded by family. The truth is lost to time. What we know for certain: military commander for over 30 years, dozens of major battles, personal combat captures beyond counting, fortune in horses from defeated challengers, influenced the succession of one of the most powerful Khanate, did all of it while being a woman in a world that insisted women couldn't. After her death, her legend doesn't fade. It transforms. In the 13th century, Marco Polo journeys through the Mongol Empire. He spends years in Kublai Khan's court, documenting everything. When he returns to Europe, he writes the Travels of Marco Polo. In it, he tells the story of a warrior princess who defeats all challengers, rides into battle, captures enemy soldiers with her bare hands. He calls her Aigyarn, possibly a corruption of one of Khutulun's other names. European readers are fascinated and skeptical. A woman warrior commanding armies? Surely exaggeration, but the story persists. In the 18th century, Italian playwright Carlo Gazzi writes Tarandata, story of a princess who challenges suitors, executing those who fail, clearly inspired by Khutulun's wrestling challenges, transformed through centuries of retelling. Then, in the early 20th century, Giacomo Puccini adapts it into an opera. Tarandat becomes one of the world's most famous operas. The princess's aria in Questa Regia is performed in opera houses from New York to Sydney. Millions watch. They see a strong, unconquerable princess who refuses to submit. Almost none realize they're watching a story that began with a real woman on the Mongol steppe 700 years earlier. In Mongolia today, Khutulun is remembered as a national hero. Traditional wrestling tournaments honor her memory. Young girls learn her story as an example of Mongol women's potential. Modern scholars have begun reassessing her historical importance. For centuries, She was a curiosity and interesting footnote. Contemporary historians now recognize her as a significant political and military figure in her own right. She proved gender restrictions were cultural constructs, not natural laws. She demonstrated women could excel in traditionally male domains when given opportunity and training. She showed leadership had nothing to do with biology and everything to do with capability. She did all this without modern feminism, without contemporary gender equality discussions, without the philosophical frameworks we use today. She simply did it, became the person she was capable of becoming, regardless of society's expectations. Here's what's most remarkable. Khutulun never asked permission. She didn't petition her father to let her train. She simply trained. She didn't request permission to refuse marriage. She simply refused. She didn't ask if she could command armies. She simply commanded. She lived by a principle radical in the 13th century, and still radical today. The only permission you need to be extraordinary is your own. Remember those accusations? Poisoning her father, witchcraft, murdering brothers. Modern historians have investigated thoroughly, examined evidence, cross-referenced sources, analyzed political context. Their conclusion: the accusations were almost certainly fabricated by later chroniclers who couldn't reconcile Khutulun's success with their beliefs about gender. Think about it. If Khutulun actually poisoned her father or murdered brothers, why voluntarily step aside from succession? Why support Horus instead of seizing power? Why continue serving as military commander rather than claiming the throne? The accusations make no sense given her actual behavior. What makes perfect sense? Male chroniclers writing decades or centuries later looked at her exceptional achievements and invented explanations fitting their worldview. She couldn't be successful through skill, must have used poison. She couldn't be strong through training, must have used witchcraft. The real scandal isn't what she allegedly did. It's what people needed to believe about her to make her existence acceptable. She was so far beyond what society believed a woman could be that they literally had to invent crimes to explain her. They couldn't just accept she was exceptional. That possibility was more unthinkable than poison, murder, and magic. And that tells us something profound about how history is written. How many other exceptional women have been erased or diminished by false accusations? How many Khutuluns are lost to time because their achievements were too threatening to record accurately? We'll never know. But we know about this one. Her story survives, not because people wanted to remember her, but because her achievements were too extraordinary to completely erase. She won too many battles, defeated too many champions, commanded too many soldiers, made too much impact. Even those who wanted to diminish her couldn't make her disappear. Khutulun died sometime in the early 14th century. Exact date, unknown. Circumstances, unclear. Final resting place, never found, but her legacy endures. She proved the only limits on human potential are the ones we accept. That tradition is just the opinion of dead people. That strength comes in forms society doesn't always recognize. She was a wrestler who never lost, a warrior who captured enemies with her bare hands, a commander who led 40,000 soldiers, a princess who chose her own path, and she did it all without apology, without permission, without compromise. The Mongols had a phrase for warriors of exceptional courage and skill. Khutulun earned that title 1,000 times over. But perhaps the most fitting tribute comes from Mongol oral traditions. Centuries after her death, grandmothers still tell stories to granddaughters. Stories of a princess stronger than any man. A warrior who rode like thunder. A woman who proved nothing not tradition, not expectation, not an entire empire's assumptions could cage a person determined to be free. They end with a simple phrase: be like Khutulun, be strong, be brave, be yourself no matter what the world says. That's her real legacy, not battles won or challengers defeated, but the possibility she represented. the door she kicked open for everyone who came after. Khutulun proved something that needed proving, still being proven today. 700 years later, heroism doesn't have a gender. Strength comes in many forms, and one person refusing to accept the world's limitations can change what everyone believes is possible. If Khutulun's story moved you, inspired you, or made you think differently about what's possible, hit that like button. It helps more people discover these forgotten heroes. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, we're uncovering stories like this. Warriors, rulers, rebels, visionaries whose names should be legendary but have been erased by time. Drop a comment. What surprised you most about Khutulun's story? The wrestling victories? Military command? That her legend inspired one of the world's most famous or maybe you know another forgotten hero whose story deserves telling. Share their name. Your suggestion could become the next episode. History isn't just about the past. It's about understanding how we got here and imagining where we can go. Every forgotten hero we remember is a door that opens. Every story we tell is a possibility we reclaim. Khutulun opened doors 700 years ago. Doors are still opening today. Be like Khutulun. This has been Forgotten Heroes. I'll see you in the next episode.